what are the standards? Like why, like what are the academic standards for a 4-year-old? Why are there even academic standards for a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
Right? Like I mean, I don't remember when I was 4, I'm grown, but like I was playing Barbies and ponies and whatever. You know, I think behavioral and academic expectations of certain school systems are incongruent with developmentally appropriate expectations of kids.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Little Brain Campaign.
We're your hosts. I'm Jessica Eisenstadt, a licensed professional counselor, passionate about supporting kids with exceptionalities and behavioral challenges.
And I'm Lauren LaRose, a child and adolescent psychiatrist who loves diving into all things child and adolescent mental health.
Each week, we'll chat about our personal and professional experience as it relates to childhood development.
Plus, we'll bring on a guest to share their insights and experiences on important topics.
Join us for a lively discussion, expert interviews, and a lot of laughs. Let's get started. Hello, Big Brains. Thanks for joining us. We are your hosts, Jessica
And Lauren.
And today we have the pleasure of chatting with Emily Grest. She is the owner of Deep Roots Behavior Support. She's located locally in the New Orleans area. She is a BCBA. What does that stand for?
Board Certified Behavior Analyst.
Did I get that right?
We were right.
We were quizzing each other before. Emily provides child-led services in naturalistic settings. She's worked in a variety of settings in many different capacities, and I'm not listing them off. So go girl, let the people know about ya.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me today. So just to kind of jump into my career in ABA, so I kind of fell into it, which I think a lot of BCBAs did. I was actually in school at Tulane in neuroscience, and a girl that sat next to me said, I heard that you love working with kids with autism. I go to a home every day after class and work with this little boy. I think you should do it too. And so did that. And I was working under a BCBA, really loved it. And just kind of, I had thought maybe, I think a lot of us were like, maybe I want to be an OT.
Occupational therapist.
An occupational therapist. A lot of us maybe wanted to go into speech. And so I had that in my mind. And then just kind of loved it more and more. And like I said, I started off in a home. Then I went and worked.
And in a home means like someone's house.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And there, yeah.
You were not in a home. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
in a
that makes
nursing
sense. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, y'all. Shit, keep going.
No, yeah. I was working in a little boy's home where he lived with his sister and his mom and his dad. And every afternoon I would go and work on his lessons that the BCBA had come up with. And after
so what you were the what?
I was the technician.
Technician.
Yeah. And
okay.
so now fast forward, that was 2016, and now here we are. And I'm a BCBA, and I have some technicians that work for me.
So a BCBA is, it's a supervisor to a tech who's trying to become a BCBA?
So not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
So BCBAs can operate just on their own, like I do. I feel like I'm going through my resume in a really zigzag way, but that's okay.
Oh my gosh, there's no right way.
It's great.
But so a BCBA can operate on their own, like I do for Early Steps. So I'm also an Early Steps provider.
What is Early Steps?
So that is the state-funded early intervention program for ages 0 to 3. Okay. And I think when people hear state-funded, sometimes they think that maybe that's for lower incomes or it has to be in a certain setting, and it's not. It can be anybody. It can be at a private school.
Yep.
It can also be in a home setting. It can be in daycares, Head Start programs.
My son was in Early Steps.
Yeah, 100%. My daughter's in Early Steps. And I think it's such a great program because you're going to where they are instead of them always having to come to you, which I know there's tons of providers where they come to you, and I think there's pros and cons for both. But being an Early Steps provider really kind of led to me having my own business and shaping it the way I did, just with that experience of going to so many people's homes, going into schools, really getting to talk to people, and actually not having technicians work for me. Because in Early Steps, we don't have those. It's just me going in. And I felt like in Early Steps, I got back that connection with families that I'd kind of lost working for, big ABA corporations, because that's what I ended up doing after I got my master's and did all my hours, was worked for a few big places and one really small business that I liked, and then went into early steps.
Okay, can you tell us like what is ABA? Because I actually, I don't think I've actually ever seen ABA in action. So tell us what it is. What does it look like?
Yeah, so ABA is a type of therapy that's focused on two different parts. So we're looking at skills acquisition and behavior reduction. But you can't have the behavior reduction without the skills acquisition.
What is that?
So a behavior reduction would be like...
Move your mic closer to your face.
That would be... I know, I've slowly scooted back. I think it's my hair. So behavior reduction, which... and some people call that problem behaviors, and I just really, really try not to do that. But say that you have a little boy that's hitting himself during class.
Yeah.
So that would be a behavior that we want to reduce.
Right.
And we would teach something in
a
its
replacement.
place.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's why, and I feel like maybe I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but
Go ahead.
I think looking at kind of the function of those behaviors, that's why ABA works so closely with occupational therapy and speech so often, because a lot of times when you see a behavior that's kind of presenting in a really severe way that way, it's going to be kind of a multidisciplinary approach to target it. So
Right.
I'm a big proponent for, if I'm added to a team, I always make sure that speech and OT have kind of been looped in too.
Yeah.
So was ABA designed for kids with autism?
So that is, yes and no.
Okay.
So it was all based on research that was done just kind of on the science of behavior, but its first application was really targeted to autism. Okay. But if you really look at it at its root, it is not autism therapy. It's not trying to cure autism. It's just the one thing that people or researchers have kind of shown, not the one thing, can we scratch that? It's not the one therapy that's effective for maybe kind of redirecting those behaviors, but it's the one that's been studied a lot. But ABA can work for anything, and ABA it kind of works under a lot of different hats, I think, but people kind of do ABA throughout their day and don't even realize it. Like when they always gave us the example, like if your husband throws his pants next to the laundry hamper,
Which he does,
and you pick it up for
me.
him, then maybe you're accidentally reinforcing that behavior. But then if you maybe move the hamper and say, here, try to throw it in this way, and then you like give a reward. I don't know what for putting.
I mean, I have a couple ideas. Wink, wink.
So like we're rewarding and reinforcing behaviors all day long, and everything is a behavior. Like the way we communicate with each other is a behavior. The way we're sitting in this chair is a behavior. Me driving my car to get here and trying to figure out where to park is a behavior. So everything is a behavior.
So what other, besides autism, like what other kinds of diagnoses or symptom sets do you see that you work with?
Like, is there a theme?
Yeah.
Trend?
So, well, the theme is that I think a lot of times I get referred when they just don't know what to do, whether that is a school or a parent. But I think I can be really helpful for diagnoses that are not autism, and I've been added to cases where the little kiddo was diagnosed with Downs or cerebral palsy. But kind of one thing that I've really loved is getting the referrals that there is no diagnosis. Maybe they just need some support, because I feel like they're so, looking back, maybe I needed a little behavior therapy. You know?
Like, can you do ABA for me?
Yeah, seriously.
Right. So I hate that because of insurance, sometimes it gets pigeonholed to, okay, ABA is just for just for ASD. So,
or they'll only cover, they will only reimburse.
Yes.
If you have a diagnosis of autism.
Yep.
So that's been something that in the past few years I've just been so excited to do, is kind of be on these cases where there's not a diagnosis or they're just kind of trying to figure it out. And one referral that I get a lot, and and I kind of like give them little names. But my favorite one is he loves timeout. And
what?
Yeah, I'll get a referral and they'll say, he loves timeout. He'll do anything to get to timeout. Like he used to scream to get to timeout, and now he hits to get to timeout. And as the behaviorists, we're sitting here and our wheels are turning. We're like, okay, well, what does he like about timeout?
It's silent, it's quiet, it's not stimulating.
Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like sometimes I can come in and kind of say, okay, maybe we could just have him ask for a break.
Yep.
Or maybe we could add a calm down corner to the room where everybody's quiet and they all know to be quiet there. And sometimes
like
it's
code word, hand signal, noise, whatever.
And sometimes it's as simple as that. But parents, teachers, grandparents, everybody will almost get into a pattern of reinforcing these problem behaviors and then get really confused as to why they're happening.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you work in a variety, like right now, you work at homes, houses, school settings, clinic?
No clinics yet.
No clinic.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, not yet.
Okay. Are there any trends and reason for referral from school systems?
I mean, kind of what we were just talking about, like just don't know what to do with them.
Like what are the behaviors specifically?
Oh gosh. I think a lot of it is, let me think about how I want to frame this. Sometimes schools with the best of intentions, I think take on a kiddo and want to help them, and then a little bit down the road maybe realize they don't have the resources. I think that happens.
Okay.
And then also, you think about the ages where, when we put our kiddos into daycare, they're 2, 3, then they're starting to get into pre-K. So you drop off a 2-year-old at pre-K and he or she is crying and having tantrums. Well, it's kind of expected.
Yeah. Developmentally appropriate.
Yeah. But then if that continues, then I also see a referral for that. And sometimes it's like, hey, this has been going on for a while, and we just weren't even sure who to call. I get a lot of referrals for not, like academic time, I think is hard for kids. Like kids can play all day, but I think when there's academic times that they're having to sit and having to focus, I think that's when I start to get referrals. And so I think just looking at that, like how much pressure are we putting on a kiddo? And I would love to kind of hear y'all's thoughts on that too.
Let's go. Okay. So first of all, so you see an uptick in referrals when the expectation of the kid is to stay seated, track the speaker, produce a skill, academic skill. What age is that starting?
I think I'm seeing it a lot, like 4, 5, which is that kindergarten age where they are, expected to sit and listen to the teacher read something out loud, and things that are hard.
Yeah,
things that are hard to do and hard to regulate yourself.
Yeah,
at that age.
Yeah. Like you're not really. It's developmentally appropriate to be dysregulated.
Yes.
When a kid is faced with a quote unquote difficult situation, or maybe even like a small problem, but they're having a big reaction. Like that's developmentally appropriate. It's not necessarily clinically significant.
And it's developmentally appropriate to not want to or be able to sit still at that age and do an academic task.
Right. And like, what are the standards? Like what are the academic standards for a 4-year-old? Why are there even academic standards for a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't remember when I was 4, I'm grown, but like I wasn't learning. Like I was playing Barbies and ponies and whatever. I don't know. So, I think behavioral and academic expectations of certain school systems are incongruent with developmentally appropriate expectations of kids.
So what do you do? Okay, so what do you do? Like in your job, if you get a referral and it's like clearly like, okay, there isn't a problem behavior, quote unquote, that needs your therapy. Okay, and this is really just like development. The expectations from the school are not developmentally appropriate for this child, what do you do?
Or for this child, or for like just
Any
this
child
age
that
group.
age?
Yeah.
So I ask a ton of questions.
Right.
I'm always like, how long, how long has this expectation been in place? Are any other kids having problems with it? Mm-hmm. And I turn down cases. Sometimes I'll go and I'll say, hey, I'm going to go spend an hour with them. Let me see what it looks like.
Right.
And that's usually how I start off with every case. Like, let me go observe, make a little behavior plan. And I have times where I say, hey, I observed everything he was doing was developmentally appropriate, all that I can offer. And I think this is very helpful sometimes. But sometimes I tell them all that I can offer is more like a teacher consult.
Okay.
Like, hey, this is what we can expect. Or if something's happening that we don't like in the classroom, maybe how do we redirect and not give a lot of language to it? Which I do love to do. And teachers are usually so receptive and don't even realize
that that's an option.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, and that's another thing. It's like different. And again, not like every school system. And in some, it's like every classroom is different. So if you have a kid who's in first grade and they, we're starting to transition from this class to another for whatever and whatever, but the behavioral expectations in class A are completely different than the behavioral expectations in class B. And we need for you to remember that and meet those expectations and learn all of this other shit that you're not even ready to learn. You know, it's crazy.
Well, it's a lot. And I think sometimes, like I said, good intentions, but when we're telling 2-year-olds that they have a red behavior or a green behavior, that's
like they don't even know what red and green are. Like I can't even say red and green.
Right. So that's not really teaching them anything. And I think that's hard. And that's something that has been passed down for so long. I remember having the little clipboard in my kindergarten class.
And you do? I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. We did. And your little clothespin would be moved.
Oh, wow.
Really? Did you have that? I don't remember that.
Kindergarten?
Yeah.
You kidding me?
I mean, I did get help back.
I also got help back.
You did?
Yeah.
Shit.
Well, I'm a first child, just like rule follower. Very upset that I was moved to yellow.
Yeah. Why do you think school, like, okay, in the pre-K 2 room or whatever, like, what is the rationale behind tracking? I don't even know if is it tracking behavior? The colors, red, green, yellow.
I think it's a little bit of trying to communicate something to the child and just doing it in a way that's not very effective.
Right.
And then also maybe, I think it's an attempt at classroom management. Like, hey, maybe they won't want to get on red.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, what gets you on red? Because I'm not going to explain that to you. I'm just going to put you on red when you do something that's like undesired today.
Right. It's a reactive approach.
And it's like not targeted.
Right.
Like when you call out 3 times, your thing moves to yellow. When you call out 3 more times, not for a pre-K 2, but like, if you're not specific, then what? They don't even know what. I don't even know what you expect of me.
So that's one of the first things that I ask usually when I do a school consult too. And I know we worked together on one and talked a little bit about this, but I always walk in and say, hey, what are the classroom rules?
Yes.
Or what are the expectations?
Yep.
Where are they posted?
Correct.
How are they tracked?
Is it a picture and a word? Because then you have the kids who can't read. You know what I mean? Right. You have a kid who's diagnosed with like dyslexia or whatever. Anyways.
Right. Yeah, like a picture schedule.
Yeah.
Or
yes.
And how is that how are they being reminded?
Yeah.
Is it a threat?
Yeah.
Or is it a bribe?
Yeah.
Because then we're getting into that sticky situation of, okay, now we're just kind of falling into bribery. Like, hey, get back in your seat and I'll give you this.
Yeah.
Or, all of that. So
do you see a lot of the bribery?
Accidentally.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
A lot of accidental bribery. I see teachers, parents, grandparents.
Parents for sure. Yeah. But like, what are teachers bribing with? Like,
hey, if you stop crying, you'll get a goldfish. Really simple things. But you see it. You see it. And when you think about it, and I feel like I have, like a little sensor for it. Like when I first go to a classroom, I'm like, okay, is there a lot of bribery happening here? Because with bribery, then you see an increase in the problem behaviors.
Yes.
So I think
I want 8 goldfish.
Exactly, right. And I'll scream louder to get the 8.
Yeah.
So I think being super, super careful about bribery. And that's a little article that I send to a lot of teachers. Like, hey, what's a bribe and what's a reward?
Right.
Like, let's make it really simple.
Well, what's the difference?
So a reward happens after something that you want to keep occurring, that
Okay.
you want to reinforce. A bribe happens while the problem behavior is happening.
So like, like fuck you if you keep cursing. Oh, if you stop cursing, then you'll get a goldfish.
Yeah.
But if I say I'm really annoyed that this is happening, I'm not cursing, and you say you use your words.
I love how you use your words.
Yeah.
Goldfish or whatever. So that's the difference. Okay.
That's the difference. And you can even have like that written up too. Like we were just talking about, like, okay, what is not going to get you a goldfish and what's going to get you a goldfish? Like instead of saying, whatever, you can say like, oh, darn it. Or like, oh, bejesus. Like, and bejesus gets you a goldfish and the other words don't. And, just kind of setting up those standards of, hey, what
like on day one of school starting, it's like, what are the classroom expectations?
And I've seen some really philosophically wonderful rules that make no sense to a child. Like I'm going to serve and care for my community for a 5-year-old. I'm like, what is a community?
Yeah, what is serve?
What does serve mean?
I'm gonna. What is it? Say it again. I
kind of made that one up because I don't want because I'm basing it on a real one. But like, I'm gonna serve and care for my community.
Okay.
For 5 and 6-year-olds.
Right.
And I was like, can we make a subset of that?
Right.
Like, I'm kind to my friends.
Yes.
Something really
I
tangible.
use kind words.
Yeah.
I have
sometimes
a safe
even
body.
have to break that down.
Yeah.
What is
what's kind and what's unkind in this establishment?
Okay, what about so tell us green choice, red choice. What is the problem with that?
Green choice, red choice.
Like you're
green
doing
and
a green
red.
behavior,
Green
doing
behavior,
a
red behavior. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you're really not teaching them anything because those colors are arbitrary to me, right? Like they don't know. I mean, I think my son is very bright, but I don't know that when he was 2, we were like, green light, go, good. Like he might have known green when we see it on the road means keep driving. I don't think he's like, green light, yeah, that means continue on with what I'm doing. Yeah. Right? So the green and the red are kind of arbitrary. And then also you kind of fall into accidentally giving the problem behaviors attention. Like, hey, you were jumping on your friend on the playground. That's a red behavior. Stop jumping on your friend. Well, now you've commented on that behavior 2 or 3 times and kind of made it more of their repertoire, as opposed to saying, hey, instead of what you're doing, let's go jump on the trampoline, right? So you're not giving any replacement in that red behavior situation. You're just telling them something they should not do. And kind of the whole basis of ABA is that to reduce one behavior, you have to teach a replacement for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think when, and I'm guilty of it too. Usually it clicks after a minute. My son loves to run across the couch and try to hit golf balls and then fall off. And I'll say, get off the couch. Put the golf club down. And I'm like, wait, okay, let me give him something else to do instead. Like, can we line up different cups and hit the golf ball into that and make it a game? Because he's seeking something, and I can tell you he's not doing it to get my attention. He's doing it for himself. He's having some fun over there.
Right.
But
all behavior is purposeful.
Yeah. And so I think just thinking about what can we replace this with that matches the function of the original behavior, which the cursing example was really good too. Like that's communication.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a theme right now with my clients. And it's like you can be mad, and I'm not for cursing at. You can curse in your head, or you can say you're annoying me, or whatever.
100%.
Anyways, and then also with the green red thing, I noticed it's like at the end of the day you get a sticker, and like the kid isn't screwing up all day to get red. Like know what I mean?
Mm-mm. No,
like you're not looking for like what are all the things that they did do well.
Right.
Yeah, you're missing all of the.
Yeah, you're not like catching them being
good.
Right.
And you're following a direction. Like kids aren't coming in saying no all damn day. Like at some point they're following a direction.
No, and also with that red, the kid sees that, and then you kind of get like a scorch the earth, like self-fulfilling. Like hey, like I did red yesterday, maybe I'll do red today.
Yeah. Right.
They start to like become the thing that all the teachers see or all the other kids see.
100%. So I think that system's really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else, like other common things you see? You said like, a kid hitting themselves, kids who are not able to sit still during an academic activity? Like, what are some other common problems that you see?
So I do get referred a lot for social things like, hey, this little guy, when he's on the playground, he's off in the corner. He's not interacting with anybody.
Okay.
And usually, and unfortunately, a lot of times I don't get referred until it's a problem. Like, hey, he's getting so far away. We almost lost him. He went around the corner behind the shed on the playground and we couldn't find him.
What? But like, why was he over there?
Right.
Like, what? Hey, little Johnny, come move your body back to the playground.
Right.
Why do they need to call you for that?
I think sometimes they just don't know how to prompt back. Like if they say, hey, go down the slide and he runs further away, sometimes people are at a loss, and something that I remind myself a lot is play isn't innate for everybody. Like we're not born knowing exactly how to play. We kind of learn that.
Yeah.
Or playing in the way that society tells us is an appropriate way to play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. It's really social, it's really socially mediated. And then also so we're kind of talking about kids playing, but then are some adults that don't know how to play. And maybe they did and now they don't, or maybe they just kind of never did.
Yeah.
But you see the difference in the difference in how different teachers interact with kids.
Yeah.
And even kind of the culture at different schools. Like sometimes you go to a daycare and every teacher is just sitting on the sidelines. Yeah. Hey, stay on the grass,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all the kids are getting.
Yeah.
And in some schools, all the teachers are kind of like, down on the ground, digging in the dirt, building the volcano with the kid that said he likes volcanoes. And I find that is kind of overall a school culture thing.
Yeah.
Like, do we train our teachers how to play and how to prompt play, or do we train them
how to supervise
and keep the kids alive?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think sometimes there's like too much adult intervention?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
What do you mean, Lauren?
Like sometimes do we as adults pick apart behaviors and find problems when maybe there's not as much of a problem there?
I think sometimes, and I think sometimes sometimes I'll get a call and I'll be like, the parent will talk to me and I'll think everything sounds developmentally appropriate, go see the kiddo. I don't really think they need me. But I tell a parent, like, hey, I think you're just so involved and so concerned about your kid, but go to the playground and see how they look compared to kids that look like similar ages, right? Like kind of take them to the children's museum and see how they do. Like, do they have an okay time? Because unless you go to the children's museum and you're running into some kind of barrier where, you can't participate, or your kid is pushing other kids over. Or, I mean, that's still kind of appropriate to a degree. Yeah. But, I always say if the behavior isn't affecting your daily life, then you probably don't need behavior therapy. Can I do a teacher consult? Sure. Yes, I would love to. That's one of my favorite things to do. But not every kid needs behavior therapy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, so to what you were saying, Lauren, like say it again.
Like sometimes are adults like dissecting too much?
Like adults or like teachers?
Adults.
Okay, all right.
I think parents and
adults.
teachers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like picking. So, like, I need an example. Like, what is a behavior that parents pick to? I don't know.
Gosh. Okay. Now you're putting me on the spot.
Well, I just I need like examples. So I can understand.
Okay. So like here's a good example. All right. I have two boys that are very close in age, like really close in age. Okay. And they are like, they are biologically made to be like puppy dogs, okay? Like puppy dogs wrestle around. That's if you put puppy dogs together, they're going to wrestle, right? That's what they do, okay? Yeah. That's what my boys do, all right? And it seems like I as someone who like has done a lot of training and education about child development knows that. But then there's other adults who see this as like a quote unquote problem behavior.
Is it like family
but
members
like who?
that think it's a
Like,
problem?
I don't want to call people out, but
Whatever.
yeah, sometimes
Like,
it's family members, sometimes it's
like
school asking, does that happen at home? And it's like, well, yeah, like
like
that
does what
happen
happen at home?
Wrestling.
So I would counter with a question when people ask you that, like, hey, does this happen at home? And you can be like, yeah, like, is it happening so much that it's affecting their learning or their social interactions? Because if it's kind of a one-off thing and it's just something that they're doing when they run into each other on the playground, then.
But are you saying like if kid A, brother of kid B, sees each other at school and they wrestle, or are you saying kid A wants to like play fight or whatever with his friend at school?
I don't know. I guess either.
Okay. And then like
sometimes are we seeing normal behaviors that maybe make us uncomfortable as adults?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And then we're pathologizing it. Like we're saying this is a problem.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That definitely happens. And I think that's why sometimes I do get the referrals where I'm like, I'm not needed. Or, sometimes I'll be out of school and another teacher will say, hey, I have a student that, definitely needs behavior therapy. And I'll go put my eyes on it. And I'm like, oh, no, they don't.
Yeah.
Like what happens when you go in, the behavior's not clinically significant, it's developmentally appropriate, school still thinks it's clinically significant. What normally happens? Or what have you seen?
I mean, I always advise the school. So the first recommendation that I give is, hey, if this is affecting, your classroom routine or it's affecting the student, the first thing I say is documentation.
Duh. Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, you say he's crying all day or getting out of his seat all day.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hold the little clicker and count how many times it's happening an hour?
Yeah.
And let's just see.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I like to tell people also.
And it's because they're not documenting.
No
like
documentation.
here's a problem. I don't have any evidence, but it's a problem. And it's like, well, where are the incident reports? Like, where's the documentation? Anyways.
And I have that happen a lot with my early steps kiddos. Like when I do our initial meeting screening, a lot of times parents are like, well, I'm not sure why we're getting, why we need you. But every day when I pick them up, daycare says it's been a bad day. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I always kind of think about, I would want to know.
Yeah.
If my son, they'll, and then I go see the daycare and they're like, well, sometimes he hits. Well, do parents know? Or is that what you mean when you say that he's having a bad day? How many times is it happening? Yeah. And, like in what capacity? Like when a teacher says, we have this student that's hitting. Okay, are they verbal? Do they know how to interact with their peers? Do they have speech? No, let's get some speech.
Yeah.
He's just trying to communicate.
Right. Correct.
And
also, like, what are you doing as a teacher? Like, in the classroom. If 2-year-old Rhodes goes up and or Monroe, she'd be more likely to do it. If Monroe, because she does it, she's 2, it goes up and just pushes the shit out of her little classmate. Just, she in the mood. She wants to go push somebody. And let's say she does it every day for a week. And then the teacher's like, just, she's pushing. We have a BCBA on staff. We're going to come get her do observation. Okay. What have you done already though?
Right.
To intervene? Because isn't that your job? What do you just let her do it? What are the consequences? What are you doing to prevent it? Right? Yeah. I think school systems in particular are quick to refer because they either don't have the capacity or knowledge or what else? Resources, yeah. Or they just don't want to, deal with it. They want someone else to deal with it.
Well, and that's what we run into a lot too, is they don't want to deal with it, so they send the kid home when it happens.
Yep.
And now we've gotten the ultimate.
That's the really reinforcement.
God, and I'm thinking of a client.
Yeah.
All 3 of us. Yep.
I'm thinking of my kid.
Yeah, Lauren's kid. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then, the ultimate reinforcer, get to go home with mom.
Sweet. Yeah.
And who cares if you take away TV and the
I don't
iPad?
care.
You're not at school.
Yeah,
And I get my mom all to myself all day.
Yeah, who I normally have to
attention.
share with my two siblings.
Yeah.
And kids are smarter than a lot of people give them credit for.
Yeah.
And hey, if she knows she bites somebody and she gets to go home,
She's going to
She's biting at 11 a.m. every day, right before nap. Yeah,
8:30 a.m. Why not
yeah,
do it
I
right
don't care.
after you drop off?
Right, right when you pull out of the parking lot, you have to come right back.
Yeah, so
Perfect for you.
Yeah, so that's what we run into a lot is that pattern.
Yeah.
It's just kind of propagated. It happens in the 2-year-old class, and then the 2-year-old teacher tells the 3-year-old teacher, and then
now they already have a target.
Yep. 100%.
Yep.
So
Just wild. I mean, okay, we're running out of time, but like
Are we? Oh,
I know, because I know you're
So
going to be
fun.
like probably monthly, like
Yeah.
we record monthly,
yeah.
anyways, because we've worked together already before, but we all just work in the same systems.
Yeah. We're seeing the same thing.
Yeah, and saying the same things. Anyways, it was such a pleasure
Thank you,
having you on,
Emily.
and the Little Brain Campaign loves you. Please tell the people where to find you, how to get in contact with you.
Oh, thank you. So my website is deeprootsnola.com. I really hope that is right because it's new.
It is
and
deeprootsnola.com, yes.
And then on Instagram, Deep Roots Behavior Support. Once again, I really, really, really hope that's correct. But I will.
You can follow the Little Brain Campaign and search through our followers because I think we follow.
I post on Instagram a lot. I post about new employees and little tips and tricks and things like that. So
great.
Check us out.
Well, I love this new
Thanks,
little
Emily.
collab and
Oh
partnership.
my gosh, I do too.
Yeah,
I want to do it again.
so great.
So fun.
All right, we'll speak soon.
All right, thank you.
Peace out.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support means the world to us.
And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, hit up the Little Brain Campaign on social media. Until next time, keep those little brains growing. This podcast is for informational purposes only. There is no one-size-fits-all. Always consult with a qualified professional for personalized support.